Hey guys, what's going on? Rico Garcia here, founder of EcoTek Pro. Just want to go ahead and highlight something real quick on a job site that I'm at, a remediation job that they called me in on because obviously there was mold after a water event. And this is something that I tell clients all the time. You have to be mindful and you can't be overly optimistic about what the Dryout company is telling you, saying that you're not going to have a mold issue later on down the road and things of that nature, because a lot of Dryout companies, when you call them, really what they're hoping for at the end of the day is they're looking to double dip. Number one, they're looking to take advantage of the water damage portion of the claim or the Dryout portion of the claim, knowing full well that if they kind of get it back to a dry standard, but it's somewhat questionable, that they have some job site security, because later on, guess what? There might be a mold issue, right? This is why you have to make sure that you're hiring a good Dryout company, because in a situation like this, let me turn the camera around real quick. You can see the amount of mold growth is absolutely ridiculous. So there's no amount of drying that you could possibly do. First of all, if the Dryout would have been done properly, and if they would have taken things into consideration, like how long was the water sitting, things of that nature, really what they would have done in the beginning is just made the recommendation to the client to just do a flood cut. The moment that you remove this wet material is the moment that you start to eliminate the possibility of this kind of mold growth all the way up the wall. So that's why it's so important that you understand the mechanics of how everything works, because ultimately, even though it's the insurance that may or may not end up covering it, it's still an added expense that frankly can be avoided, and it's also just much more downtime. If you take care of things properly the first time, even if it's a contractor having to have an uncomfortable conversation with an overly optimistic customer, it's about letting them know exactly what they're going to run into. And if you're a contractor, look, don't be scared to lose the deal by telling the customer what they may run into. Ultimately, it'll come back in spades. If you were right, and for whatever reason they were an overly optimistic client, they decided to go with another contractor that was telling them what they needed to hear, guess what? You're still always going to be in the back of their mind, and they will make recommendations to you because you know what? You told them exactly what to expect. So this particular company, when they did the Dryout, they were the same ones that bid out the mold remediation portion of this. So clearly, every time that I see that kind of deal, I understand that, or at least I think that they're kind of leveraging the possibility of getting additional funds out of the project. So at any rate, educate yourself, make sure that this doesn't happen to you.